and we now enter our fourth section, and it's our final section for today, and where we're going to discuss those tentpole movies for Phase 6 that were dropped, like Fantastic Four, Avengers, Kang Dynasty, Avengers Secret Wars. Those are massive films. It looks also like Jonathan Majors' Kang will succeed Josh Brolin's Thanos as the big bad of the multiverse saga, like Thanos was the big bad of the Infinity Saga. And what does this mean for those tentpole movies that are coming up? Are they being influenced by that? And mutants, they were surprisingly absent from the Marvel panel yesterday. So are they going to postpone introducing those to Phase 7, 8, 9? Will they call that the Mutant Saga? Well, we have a few things still to discuss. And you know what? I'm going to start with Merv. Merv, talk to me.
I'll start with saying that Majors was really good in the Loki series as He Who Remains, or whatever his name was, basically Kang, one version of Kang. I'm really curious if it's going to be multiple Kangs across different universes, all working together, working against each other. Maybe there's different teams of Kangs. I don't really know what to expect with the multiverse added into the mix of it. As far as basically filling Thanos' shoes, I think he can, but it's kind of big shoes to fill. But I guess I'm curious to see if we get like little snippets of Kang throughout various movies, the way we got Thanos, like in really small doses for like 6 years before he showed up and like started destroying things. He was really anticipated for a while following that first Avengers movie, and then they gave you a little bit of dose, a little bit of Thanos, a little bit of Thanos. You saw him cropping up all over the place looking for the Infinity Stones and whatnot. And I'm wondering if they're going to use that same approach with Kang, or if he's just going to be like all over the place, already, and not like behind the curtain, so to speak, as the main bad guy up and coming, but if he's just going to be like front and center in everybody's business all the time, if there's a million Kangs out there, I'm just curious how they're going to handle it. But I definitely think Majors can fill that role, and I think it'll be a very different villain than Thanos. If his acting in Loki was any inclination, like, he's going to be a very different feeling villain, way more cerebral. And I don't want to say that. It's not like Thanos was a big brute, but
on the other hand, okay, let's talk Thanos. Thanos was announced for Guardians of the Galaxy for a bigger role, and in the end, all he did was sit in a chair.
Yeah.
The first time we saw Kang, basically all he did was sitting in a chair.
He was sitting in a chair too.
Yeah, so I see a parallel here. I think they're going to do exactly what they did with Thanos with Kang. So, and the mutant thing, we want to come back to that later.
I can do it now if you want. It doesn't matter to me, but do you want to do it later? Do you want to? Okay. You guys know from the board, I'm a big X-Men mutant fan. That's pretty much my first love for comic books stemmed from my love for the X-Men animated series, and I was like, oh, I got to know more about all these characters, all their different abilities. So I'm happy that it seems like they're going to take like a really slower approach to incorporating them in. I want them to plant seeds of mutants and maybe even teams or certain characters throughout the entire universe before they just jump right into an X-Men team or something. It wouldn't feel right at all if like in the Wakanda finale, like the X-Men show up and they're like, we're here to help, that would just feel way out of left field. So I'm happy that it seems like they're gonna take a slower approach to introducing mutated humans into this world now that they have the rights to do so. And I'm very excited to see where it goes. I just hope they've never done anything so wrong that they couldn't come back from it. So the MCU, I have the utmost faith in until they break it. So I'm very excited to see where they go with mutants and the X-Men franchises and all that stuff.
Yeah. So Phase 7, 8, 9, the Mutant Saga, sound good?
Yeah, very good.
Okay, Lokismom.
Yeah, I was just going to throw in about the mutants.
I think one maybe an issue they could run up against is because they already have Inhumans, which kind of have the same. They're kind of like parallel characters. So are you? And they've already dealt with. If you go back to the Agents of Shield TV show, they dealt with. I mean, it was basically mutants all in that show. That's what Coulson was actually. His job was he was recruiting mutants into the Shield. Anyhow, I just don't know how that may be like a weird conflict that could get too unwieldy and bringing too much of the X-Men over to this side. It some way kind of does a disservice, I think, to the X-Men saga. I think maybe they should just open another verse and have an X-Men verse and let them do their own thing. This mixing it back and forth, I think they could get in trouble doing that. That's just all I want to say.
Merv?
Yeah, I just want to say I don't want them to pull characters from the X-Men franchise. Like the existing characters from the X-Men IP that, like, Hugh Jackman as Logan. I don't want him to show up. Right. I want new characters or new actors in those roles. I want new stories with those same characters or different characters. There's a million X-Men.
And Professor X, they've already brought him in.
Yeah, but that was a multiverse variant. I don't think that's going to be a common thread. Like, I don't think they're going to continually bring... Like, I don't think you'll see Famke Janssen as Jean Grey show up. I would be very surprised and probably a bit disappointed if they did that continually.
Okay, it's pronounced Famke Janssen, by the way, but that's...
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Lord Deathman, what are your thoughts on Phase 6?
Wow.
Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four. I think that's a great way to start that phase off, bringing in the Fantastic Four. It sounds like they're probably going to come into the MCU as a result of multiverse shenanigans, which isn't really something I'm super excited for. But at the same time, I think if you're trying to get the IP to align with great storytelling that fits them, the multiverse saga is a good match for them as being these kind of explorers of space and the cosmos and strange phenomena. The Fantastic Four lines up with that really well. As for this multiverse saga, including the Avengers, both of those films, the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, a lot to unpack in those titles, but they're definitely promising really ambitious, really big, strong storytelling like we got out of the Infinity Saga. So that's the promise. But I doubt that we're going to get the same kind of buildup as in, collecting a lot of stones throughout these different movies and jumping to these different corners of the universe. The great thing that I really love about Kang as a villain, how he differs from Thanos, is he wins almost immediately. Right? When you saw that last episode of Loki and that statue had changed to be Kang the Conqueror, he won right then and there, right? And now the superhero's job is to kind of undo whatever it is he managed to wreak havoc throughout the multiverse in time. And that's why the Kang Dynasty of the two films has the most promise to me, because it feels like Age of Apocalypse from the comic books, where you were thrust into this world that was an incredible alternate timeline of the X-Men, and only one of them knew about it. It was Havoc in the comic books, who becomes the holder of our knowledge and our timeline while he tries to survive this world in which Apocalypse is in control, and some of the most powerful mutants on the planet are now his lieutenants. And I think you're going to have like Kang just winning in to start the Kang Dynasty, and it's going to be up to the heroes to kind of rewind that back to the status quo over X amount of movies. So I'm really excited about that approach. I hope that that's the approach that they take, and it sounds like that's kind of what they want to do. So yeah, I'm feeling good about Phase 6. Phase 4 was very experimental, and the thing about experiments, which I constantly, I can't even engage with you as a fan if you don't understand the idea that a part of experimenting with things is failing, right? like when you experiment, some of your experiments won't work out, right? They're all not meant to be super successful hits. It's really you just saying, I'm going to take a chance on this. Is the general public going to love Eternals? Are they going to really embrace Shang-Chi? You know, not every single one of them was going to be like a rocket to the moon. And I really appreciate the idea that they did that experimentation. But here they're saying, you know, listen, this phase 6 is going to be about hits 5 and 6. We're really, you know, going to get back to doing some of the work that really built this into the great fandom that it is. And I'm kind of glad that we kind of get to move naysayers out of the way and make room for, you know, the fans to get engaged again. So I'm really thrilled about 5 and 6.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna put out there that every project in Phase 4 had something to do with variants. Every project, whether it's a passing of a mantle or a born again vision in WandaVision. If you really think about it, there's something of a variant in every single project, which does point out that there is a connection and it reeks of multiverse. So I wouldn't call Phase 4 a failure. I think we just failed to see, and the failure is on our side and not on Marvel Studios' side.
Can I add something there? It's not that the experimentation didn't go on. I've been very critical of Phase 4, and I had not with the television shows. I thought they did real well. My problem was not the experimentation or even the stories or whatnot. It was the quality. I thought ultimately these are also movies. These for me as a fan, I expect a certain quality of filmmaking to also go on. I'm not there just to see how well they fulfilled the comic book canon. You know, I want to see good filmmaking. So I'll just put that out there. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Lord Deathman?
I just wanted to get my 2 cents in about the mutants. Just like Merv, I came into comic books with the X-Men. I'm a diehard X-Men fan. The idea, and I'm going to say I called it, that they had to start very slowly with the idea of mutants versus jumping into fully formed X-Men who are playing out some of their most iconic story beats from the comic books starting on the day one that they get introduced. The idea of mutation has a lot of drama to it. You know, it doesn't have to be world-ending stakes and the Phoenix Force and going to other planets with the X-Men. You can start right here on Earth with something as simple as a character that has the ability to just vanish, to just disappear into thin air, right? And take things along with them. That was I think the first or the second villain that the X-Men ever had in mind. And when Kevin Feige mentioned in an interview that that's what he would go for, like a character like the Vanisher and assembling a young team of X-Men to kind of deal with that level of threat, getting the stories back on a smaller scope, exploring the idea of the bias and the prejudice and all of the themes that we love from the X-Men on that level. I'm so glad that they decided to go this way versus some huge epic, let's bring the X-Men in from the multiverse bullshit, or that kind of storytelling. So I know that the mutants wasn't officially on the slate, but the rumors have it that that's going to be the name of the project, and I couldn't be more excited to get the Children of the Atom into the MCU. But I was willing to wait for them to do it the right way.
Biz, can I have your 2 cents on Phase 6, 7, 8, 9?
Yeah, sure. It's pretty much confirmed now that the Fantastic Four are going to be part of the Avengers. So, all right, yes, they're going to be here. They're the first family after all. I have a love for the Fantastic Four. I mean, I was introduced to them by the comics, not like the original comics. I don't go that far back, but I just loved the character of Reed Richards. He's like super intelligent, and then like you have the variety of the other characters in the team, like Sue Storm. She's like a very like a potent, strong woman. like it has invisibility and like force fields. Yeah, I just love the dynamics with the family team. But yeah, like in terms of like the mutants, I don't know how much I should mention because like there's an obviously like spoiler in the room, but it could show up in Phase 6. I mean, they don't have to. Like they've got Fantastic Four and all these other projects coming, so they could easily move it to Phase 7, 8, and 9. So there's no real rush there. The question is, would I like to see them earlier rather than later? I'd say yeah, why not? Put the mutants in Phase 6. I'm all for it.
Taylor, do you have some final words of wisdom for me?
Phase 6. There's a lot of questions there.
Yeah, there were a lot of
very
gaps.
excited.
Only 3 movies.
Exactly. There's a lot of empty spaces on that chart that Feige put up there at Comic-Con, and I really want to know what's filling those spaces. Is it Shang-Chi 2, Eternals 2, Mutants? Who knows?
It looked a lot like Disney Plus shows. I mean, if you think about it, November 2024 we get Fantastic Four, and then May 2025 and November 2025 we get Avengers movies. So they may slot in a movie for February and they may slot in a movie for July, but there's not a lot of room for extra movies. I think the most what we will get is Disney Plus shows in Phase 6.
It could be. And then, okay, so then it's Armor Wars maybe and a bunch of other stuff. But I am excited about the Fantastic Four kicking off Phase 6. By the way, there has been recently a lot of talk that, they're not really going to do phases anymore. You know, the phases don't matter anymore. Well, that's been put to bed. Okay, Feige is a phased kind of guy. I guess that's how his mind works. So there's going to continue to be phases. Seeing the Fantastic Four team up with the Avengers, but of course at that point, 3 years from now, who's going to be in the Avengers? We don't even know. We can take a lot of guesses and have a whole lot of discussions, but we don't know who's going to be in the Avengers, who's still going to be alive, who's going to be brought in new by then. I mean, as I mentioned when we were talking about Ms. Marvel, Phase 4 introduced, I'm up to, I believe now with Namor, 17 or 18 new heroes have been introduced in Phase 4 alone. I mean, how are they going to work them all in, even if it is a huge thing like Kang Dynasty? And then Secret Wars. Now, I hope, I mean, and they usually do, but I hope they take a different track for Secret Wars than was in the comics. The comics Secret Wars, and there's 2 versions, but they're kind of gimmicky, to be honest. They're kind of comic fan service, in my opinion. But the thing about Secret Wars is you got to have a lot of heroes, but you also got to have a lot of villains. And there aren't that many villains at this point in the MCU. They're either dead or they haven't been introduced yet. So there needs to be a lot more villains getting introduced here in the next 2 phases as well. So it's really an open book. And like I said, I don't know how they're going to work all of this stuff in. Not to mention, I mean, and again, there may be some little corners of the MCU, like maybe Daredevil will just be doing his thing in Hell's Kitchen in New York and not get involved in the Cosmic Kang Dynasty stuff. That's fine. Shang-Chi, I mean, some people forget he even exists at this point. There's so much stuff flying around, and his movie was only like a year ago or something. But Shang-Chi is going to be a big part, we thought, or we think. So there's just so much, and I have full faith and confidence that they're going to do well. But Mutants, I think that may just be too much, given what we've already got in phases 5 and 6, and what else they would have to put in phases 5 and 6 to make it happen. Kang, with the Kang Dynasty, and it being the multiverse saga, I'm guessing we're going to see at least a couple different versions of Kang before we get to the Kang Dynasty. So there may be a Kang in Quantumania who does a little thing and then dies. And then there's a different Kang variant that comes in later and creates the Kang Dynasty. who knows? We're just spitballing at this point. But I think mutants. We're good to see little bits and pieces of mutants. That's we've already started seeing that. But as far as a full up X-Men saga, I think 7, 8, and 9 that might happen, and I'm sure in the future we will all have a lot of discussions, and I will explain to you why X-Men suck. But we'll get to that later.
It'll be 2 against 1, Taylor.
Well, we call him the fan without fear for a reason. Biz, you had a follow-up.
Yeah, I'd like to mention the whole multiverse saga. So that'll be interesting because I don't know too much about Secret Wars. However, I know this is actually credited to Rob. Like, he does a lot of videos in terms of like pop culture, in terms of like comic book stuff, and he was talking about like a multiversal war. So like we've already been introduced to like super beings. Like, what was her name? I think it was a divinity in Thor: Love and Thunder. Eternity. What was her name?
Eternity.
Right. Yeah. And then obviously we also have like the Judge in the Eternals. So we're and Adam Warlock. We're already dealing with some huge stuff here. So there is, like, in that multiversal war, there was a being that could actually has multiversal powers, or like he controls the multiverse in some way, but like had some pretty epic abilities. So I wonder if they're going to play into that at all. And also, in saying that, with Kang himself, I'm not sure how well you guys are familiar with that character, but Kang, there's like a junior version of him, and he's called Iron Lad. And there are theories that we might have already seen him because of like Iron Man 3 with the little kid, and then he's showing up to the funeral. So that might play a part there. I mean, I haven't forgotten about that, and other fans haven't either. So it'll be interesting how they all play that out, because we have, like, obviously Riri Williams. She's another Iron Man type character. So we'll see how that goes.
Interesting. Lord Deathman, you also had a follow-up.
I did. And this is really about Taylor's comment about the lack of villains that we have for something like Secret Wars. So for those of you who don't know, Secret Wars was really started by Marvel because they were trying to get the attention of a toy manufacturer to start making Marvel action figures. So the whole idea of Secret Wars, which was to get all of the heroes of the Marvel Universe and all of the villains of the Marvel Universe fighting each other in one epic saga, the genesis of that idea was because Kenner had already licensed DC heroes and Mattel had licensed He-Man, and Marvel wanted their share of the toy market. So they were like, what do we do to get the attention of a big toy manufacturer? And that's how Secret Wars came to be. It was like, let's just throw everybody into one arena, have them fight on this battle world. But they unintentionally, much like Crisis on Infinite Earths, which has a similar genesis, they unintentionally ended up writing a fairly middle quality science fiction and fantasy story with the first Secret Wars. It was followed up with a sequel in 2015, which was amazing, by Jonathan Hickman. Read it if you can. But that being said, if the multiverse is playing an idea, playing into Secret Wars, which it did in the 2015 version, then all the villains are alive somewhere in some world. And what Secret Wars is assembling the patchwork of all across the multiverse of this into this battle world where they all kind of go at each other. I don't know if they have, I mean, they did do Infinity War. I don't know if they have got, who knows if they've got the nerve, if they've got the brawn to take on something as epic and as large as Secret Wars, but I'm not going to doubt them. For sure. I'm not going to be the person that says that they won't do it.
Well, I'm going to throw something out here. Somewhere in the multiverse, Natasha, Tony, and Steve are also still alive.
Yeah, they are.
So they in this multiverse saga, there is a moment where they can bring in those old guys to play a part in the Avengers movie. I wouldn't put it past them.
Table for Secret Wars, nobody.
Exactly. Lokismom, you also had a follow-up. I think.
Yeah, kind of a weird follow up because just anticipating what the plots and or narratives might be, which is always a lot of fun. But sometimes you can put yourself in a corner and it doesn't turn out. It goes in a totally different direction. What you thought it should go. This is how they should have. But anyway, yeah, I want to know what is going to happen to that whatever you call it, a destroyer that landed in the void. Because we're talking about this whole Kang thing going, and of course, remember Kang invented the TVA, so that's his creation. And so, from what I understand about that, it's not a lot. I don't think they did a whole lot about it as far as the comic books went. But there's like pocket universes, and there's like where they've just copied like the Earth as it was at a certain point, and then stick it in this pocket universe, and nobody on Earth knows what's going on. They think everything's normal, but really it's just a totally different set of people than the real Earth. And I mean, I hope they do stuff like that because it's just so weird. And that battleship, not battleship, crap. What kind? You guys know what kind of boat was that in Loki? What kind of boat was that? I know it was the Philadelphia experiment boat, but what kind of ship was it?
Was it an aircraft carrier?
Anyhow, that thing is a time machine. It's a time machine, and you got all these Lokis down on that planet with a time machine. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. Taylor?
Yeah, the whole question about Loki season 2 and what role that's going to play in the bigger picture, like Loki's mom just pointed out, is humongous. As she said, Kang is a huge part of that, or Kangs are a huge part of that. So again, that's just another, whole massive piece. But following up on what Lord Deathman said, I appreciate the risks, the chances that they've been taken in season, which is kind of what it is. Dirty little secret. Season 4, phase 4. I really appreciate it, and most of it has worked. But to do Spider-Man No Way Home times 100, where you bring back a bunch of dead villains and heroes, that's a big swing right there. And I know Spider-Man No Way Home was a huge success, but it does have its detractors based on that particular point too. So I don't know. It'll be something to see.
Yeah, certainly. There's a lot of promise for both Phase 5 and 6, and actually the end of Phase 4 as well. And of course, what's beyond? We know that Kevin Feige recently had a retreat where he planned out the next 10 years of the MCU. It's 2022. He planned it until 2032 at least. We only know what we're going to get partially until 2025. So there's so much more to come. Yeah.
Well, when you're 67 and going on heading towards 70, when you see 10 years down the road, I kind of go, oh, well, you kids enjoy it. I won't be there.
Well, what was it again? When we are gone, they will still go on and on and on. Mm-hmm. Something like that.
Maybe we'll be in a Marvel universe of our own. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm talking about when we're in the nursing home and they got... Never mind.
Something. And with this, we will close our discussion for today. We hope you enjoyed our show unpacking the Marvel Studios San Diego Comic-Con panel. We'll be back soon with a review series for She-Hulk and Andor. There may be other projects coming up as well, and who knows when we will record the 18th edition for the Podcast of Champions. But before I close out, I would like to ask you all once again to hit that subscribe button and notification bell on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, like our Facebook page, join the forum on Saga. That way you will never miss us and we won't have to miss you. Bye.